looks pretty good. Got tunes. Yep, all set. All right, cool. Howdy, folks. My name's Dave. I'm a woodturner, and I am continuing a project I started last night on Twitch Tuesday. It's now Woodturning Wednesday, and hopefully we'll get this project done tonight. It's all spindle turning for this particular project, and so I'm going to go over a few things as I go to explain process and how I got to where I am at with the stock, and how I plan to get to the end. So we'll cover those things. I covered them last night, but for those of you who are joining this evening and missed last night's broadcast, you can catch it on my YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/DaveRife, and if you subscribe to the channel, you can get access to all the broadcasts, all past broadcasts, recorded and set on YouTube. Okay, let's see. Let's move the camera a little bit here. Whoops, trying to go too fast. Try to straighten things out here a little bit. Whoops. Does that still have the headstock? We've got, let's see. Oh yeah, that'll be in the camera too. All right, cool, very cool. So let's tighten that down. All right, so what I have here is 1.25" stock, and this particular project is wood turning a frame, a frame for a piece of stained glass art. So last night, I turned the long ends of the frame. Let's throw both cameras on really quick because this is a really long piece. And these two pretty much maxed out the length of my lathe. Actually, not pretty much. Pretty much. I've got my headstock a little down this way, so I've got probably about another foot that I could actually utilize if I needed to get more space in between centers to turn something larger, what have you. This is 1.25" stock. This particular piece is 38 inches long. These two are 38 inches long. Let's go back to the main camera, and then these, how does that show on the other? Oh, fine. So these here are 28-inch pieces. These are the short side. So I've got now these marks here in the center, other than the center line and these marks at the end, these don't really mean anything right now, or actually ever. They will never mean anything more. I just needed to get my spacing set out, measured for the pattern that I came up with for this particular piece. So I did measure the frame itself. The ends of the spindles are going to be square so that they join up on the corners, and that's corners are square. What I had to do was mill all of this material on my table saw from 8/4 to 1.25". I guess that would be 5/4, wouldn't it? From 8/4 to 5/4, and then I had to route the dado or rabbet for where the frame fits in, and then after that, and I used my dado blade on my table saw. I don't have a router table or set up for a router, so I did all that, and then I had to do the corners and straighten, true everything up on the corners with hand chisels and my fish whacker, just a mallet. Finish those out. Then I had to mill some sacrificial material to be able to put into this gap, because as this is turning around, I don't want to be catching one corner or the other and tearing out that corner, so I need material in there to make a continuous surface as it's coming around, so that I'm not going to break away anything. I want these edges to be crisp. It is a little easier to see this piece of material that's inset, because that's a rough outer surface of a piece of lumber. But I milled all those, cut them to length, set them in. From there, I had to come up with a design. Now, as far as I can find on the internet right now, and I've looked for a couple of days, I'm not really finding. I couldn't find anything, any ideas on how I was going to accomplish this particular project. I was looking for a little inspiration, just a little bit of. That's not quite centered, is it? A little bit of direction to know which direction to go. Not that I mean, I'm fine with the turning part, but the design and all that, I don't know off the top of my head what kind of traditional spindle elements go together for certain things. There's different patterns and all that, and the pattern usually is several elements in a row, and it can be repeated across all the pieces of this, all the spindles or balusters or whatever. I've done lots of both, but not in but only in short bursts, short production bursts. I haven't done like balusters I've done hundreds, and spindles I've done, well, probably hundreds. Tool handles, now that gets me right into this. So I had to come up with a design. And then I had to come up with what's called a story stick, or I think some people call it a storyboard, depending on whether or not you're a flat boarder or not. But a story stick, storyboard are essentially the same thing. It is in this case, it will be just called a stick, but it's a piece of material that has all of the elements measured out and where they're going to be placed. And then on these two story sticks, I actually drew the general shape that it's going to be, just for visual help for me down the road as I'm going through these pieces to know what's supposed to go where. So what I did was I came up with and I'll show you this too. This is what I'm talking about. It's harder to see, say here, although it probably, I guess it shows up a little bit all right on the camera. On some other pieces it was harder to see, but basically I run that rabbet, and then I get a piece of sacrificial timber I had to mill out that fits in there like this, and I'll be able to remove that, and then all of my edges on this channel will be crisp and clean, and that's what I want. I don't want to have a lot of tear out or broken out pieces or stuff like that. So let's put this guy back in here. I'm not sure if I'm going to use this again, but I'll get a bunch of these that have this design on them, and I'm looking forward to getting those out. I know one or two of them might break as I pull them out, but they'll have this design on it, so I'm going to keep those pieces and come up with another project just using those, because I think it's kind of cool. And waste not, want not, right? I try to reuse and rescue and utilize as much of the wood that I have as possible. I try, if I do, I don't go just cut down trees willy-nilly. Almost all the wood that I have is because somebody has cut down trees for, the DNR maybe has to clear some property, or the forestry projects happen here in and around Traverse City. They like to leave what they can't collect or turn into veneer or whatever they're foresting for. as trash on the floor of the forest. And so I get a lot of wood that way, windstorms, whatever. I get it donated from people in the area. So I feel very lucky that I have fairly good access to material to be able to turn, because this is my therapy too. So I created a design with some different elements, and then I did kind of a mock-up here. This will be the corner of the frame, and then this goes towards the center that way of the spindle. And I turned out some mock pieces, and then I measured what those particular elements in this particular space, how long that is, and then set it out on the pieces. Set it out actually on my story sticks. Excuse me. I have a issue with trying to inhale my own saliva for the last couple of days. That's really kind of a pain. Sorry about that. All right, so and I will be using a spindle steady. It was really more important on these longer pieces because this span is so long. A lot of flexion going on in the middle. There'll be some flexion here too because this is 1 1/4" stock. So I will take care of that by rounding out. I wonder if does this side show up here? That's the center line. Yeah, okay. So it does show it. So I'll need to round out the center bit to be able to put my, and that's funny because that's not showing up just yet. You can see the base of it here. This is my spindle steady. It's a one-way spindle steady, and we'll talk about that. So what I did was, well, let me explain story sticks. Story sticks are basically it's kind of like a pattern. So in my case, I often use 1/4" lath to make my story sticks. In this case, for this guy, I had material milled to make these sacrificial pieces. Had some stuff left over, and that's what I used for story sticks for these pieces. So basically, and this dark line, which has kind of bled a little bit over the years, is a spindle for a short-backed, short Windsor chair. I did a bunch of spindles for somebody repairing chairs. I actually had to do the repairs myself. I didn't do any of the finishing, but I did turn the spindles and then rebuild the chairs. And what I wound up doing was taking a measurement of the length of the spindle, including the tenons that fit into the seat and into the back of the chair, and then give a general outline and mark out where these features are going to be. So this would have been this is a tenon, and then yeah, you can see that too. That was the other tenon that goes into the seat. This was the tenon that went into the back of the chair, the backrest of the chair. Here you can see a slight bulge here. I don't know what they call this shape. I really don't know, but it's more of it's a rounding, bulging out, and then tapering back down into this. So what I did was I measured all those out, put the measurements on this side of my story stick. Then I turned it up, carried these lines over the top, and drilled some holes and took finishing nails and cut them to length and then put them in the holes. And any issue from pounding them down in there that might have flattened out the points a little bit was not a big deal. I took a file on the ones that were super flat. But basically I can set this as the piece is turning on my spindle and touch these nail heads to the surface. And what that will do is it will leave a scratch mark, which you cannot see on the rough side, but it'll leave a scratch mark like that. And that, instead of having to draw every line with pencil, that's one way to do it. You can use pins, you can use nails, screws, whatever, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to make absolutely sure that, and that one's a little bent, that they were all playing straight up and at center, so that I could just touch it to the pieces it was turning, get those marks scored, and then I would know where I needed to turn and what I needed to do to create the elements on the spindles. So I've used that technique and those kinds of story sticks for tool handles, turning for Lyle Jameson's shop, croquet handles, spindles for chairs and furniture, stuff like that there. On this one, I chose, this is the short side, okay, this is the short one. So this is the same material as my stock, and I have it where I'm going to have to cut this off too. Let's do that so I can fit it on there. It's a little too long. I need to be able to line up these lines here. So let me take care of that really quick. Remove that dude. And what that lets me do is, now this one doesn't have pins in it, but I just need to line these up, and each one of these marks where I've marked it, I took a Dremel with a thin carving bit and just made a groove in there so that and it looks like I'm going to need to sharpen my pencil too. So my pencil point will fit right in there, and I can make a mark right on the side of the piece. With this one, since the ends are square, I'm not going to hold it right up while it's spinning. I'm going to shut the lathe off because I do have square ends, so this will keep knocking around. So I'm going to hold it up there. I'll make the marks, and then I will continue those marks around the round portion of the spindle, and then I'll start actually turning. So this is a different kind of story stick, but it's something that normally, if it was round, I could just hold right up to the piece or set it on my tool rests up against a piece of wood, and then just tip my pencil point into there as it's spinning, and it would just draw the line for me. In this case, I've got to draw the line myself because like I said, this is going to have square ends, so I can't just hold it up next to it. Now the spindles themselves are going to be 1.25 inches in diameter. So really I'm just taking all these corners off and rounding the thing out and then doing the design elements. And then I laid these out just like, nope, you're not going anywhere. So since I had this measurement and I knew how long it was, I knew by doing the math how many of these would fit along the length, and then where my center line was, how much of where everything meets up. So I just set it up like this, marked all my points where the features are, which, let me turn this a little bit more this way. See if you can see, yeah, okay, so let me back this guy up a little. So you can see each one of these little grooves here matches a feature. And that tells me, so I got this as a visual representation to know what shape I need to make. It's also kind of drawn on here a little bit, so I know where my coves are, beads and coves. Basically, that's what we got going on here is beads and coves, which is pretty much the foundation of wood turning, right? Everything is beads and coves. You can make basically 3 shapes, a curve, a flat, and a V. And then the combination of those 3 shapes, or those 3 cuts, gives you the combination of shapes that you can create on turning. So in this case, You could consider this a V, this right here, but this whole thing here is a bead. So I got a bead, and a bead with a longer, and I don't know what they call this shape either. Maybe it's not quite an acorn. And then a barrel. So using, like this is a curve, this right here, this part going down is a curve. The straight line would be right here at the corner. Also, the surface of it is straight this way, and then the V-cuts, all that. So it all comes together. There are lots of little parts to the process that all have to be combined together in a symphony, if you will. But that is also the result of practice, which is when I am teaching people, I suggest. Actually, I just tell them, you need, in order to get better, you got to practice. You can't just, at least in my case anyway, I haven't met anyone who has picked up a wood turning tool and turned out a beautiful piece of beautiful turned object without any kind of practice, instruction, or anything like that. There's tool handling skills, sharpening skills, ways to choose, how to choose material, how to turn the material, all this stuff. There's all kinds of little, there's a plethora of little things that you will learn as you're turning, and then be able to work those within your own body mechanics, which is another facet of the way I teach, is that you want to use your body mechanics, your own personal ergonomics, when you are learning to turn. So when you learn to pick up a tool for the first time, or second, third, whatever, but especially for the first time, and you're learning how the tool that needs to approach the piece, where it needs to be on the tool rest, where the tool rest needs to be set, all those things, how you're holding the piece. In this case, I'm between centers. Excuse me, that I don't know why I'm having such a trouble with the saliva issue. Okay, so and tonight we're just talking about just doing these spindle turnings to keep the shapes correct, and I will be explaining how I'm using the tools and best practices that I've found, among other things. So I've got this story stick all set to go, and I'll set this guy aside. These marks all line up, so that's good for me. I'm happy with that. What I need to do is be able to get my spindle steady. Oh, let's talk about that. Let's put it on camera, I guess, sort of, kind of. All right, so this is a one-way spindle steady. This is the platform with the riser. This is the actual spindle steady, this piece here with the wheels. You can buy this by itself. It does not come with the stand and riser. When I bought this anyway, that's not how they were sold. They were sold with a bowl steady. They gave you the platform and the riser, and then a block for whatever particular ways you have. You have to measure that. And then if you wanted the spindle steady, which is the reason I was going to buy it in the first place, is I only wanted the spindle steady. I've only used the bowl steady twice on spindle work. I've never used it on a bowl. When I got these, this is all that it came in the shipment. And that's one thing that I wish was a little bit different with one way, because and I don't know the reasoning, and it doesn't really matter. What it is this is an add-on, and this is really all I wanted. So if you do, there's all kinds of spindle steadies out there, but if you do pick up a one-way, be aware, at least when I purchased mine, this was the case, that you have to buy the bowl steady to get the platform and the riser, and then you can get, you can buy the spindle steady itself as an adjunct. I don't know about other steady rests. I haven't used any other ones. I don't get paid to promote. I'm not promoting this. I'm just using it as an example. Now, if one way wants to contact me and wants to support this channel because I use their equipment, I'd be happy to talk about that. That would be with them. That would be awesome. So anybody out there in Woodturning land who is also affiliated or part of One Way, I'd love to see your support on this channel. I think that'd be great. Okay, so I've got my piece now between centers. I know that I need to make this round to be able to get my steady in there. It's square, so it won't turn. I need, especially on the longer pieces, which I did last night, I need to have this, at least this much, rounded out so the wheels can capture the piece and hold it without getting a lot of bumps and all that kind of stuff. I want to limit the vibration, so I'm essentially will be turning, let's go back, well now you can see it on the upper left. I'll be turning this section between center with support from the headstock and support from the spindle steady, and then here from the spindle steady to the tailstock. So I'll only have this much. There'll be a little bit of flexion, but not so much because I'll have the spindle steady in place. I could probably do this one without it, as I said, because it is a shorter piece, but I'd really rather not, just because this is a commission piece and I just want to be the best job that I can do for it. So I'm not mucking around and trying different things. I will, if one of these pieces fails for any reason, I've got some more material that I can recut, and I will go back and make any adjustments I need to make there. But I need to turn this part round. I can't do it with the spindle steady on, so I'm going to do it by supporting the piece with my hand. I will have my fingers down here touching the banjo riser. I'm not worried about getting my fingers caught between the piece and the tool rest, because if the piece is turning this way, it would push my fingers out. But I'm not going to try to force my fingers up in there either, because I don't want to get them beat up. So I will be more or less really just applying some palm pressure to limit the flexion that's going to happen as this gets, well, it won't get any narrower really, it'll still be 1.25 inches, but we're talking about, what, 38, so now it's about 40-inch piece of timber here. That's 1.25 inches. So there's going to be some flexion, not a ton, but I just want to limit it as much as I can. So I've got the lathe set to 800 RPM. It's just kind of arbitrary. It's whatever you're comfortable turning at. I could turn this at 400 if I want to. As I've shown on several broadcasts, you know, I'll get turning and forget that I have turned my lathe down to 400 and still turn. It just means that you have to move a little bit slower. I'm only ever going as fast as the tool that I have can actually cut the material. That way I'm not, I'm minimizing the amount of vibration that I'm adding to the piece by applying the tool to it. To get a better surface and a better cut. Let's see, did I cover everything I needed to with that? We got the spindle steady, we got this with the sacrificial piece to save the edges, we got the template, story stick. No, I think we're good. Alright, so I'm going to basically be using, not this guy, 3 tools, and 2 of them are skews. I got a 1/4 inch skew, got a 1-inch skew, and then my 3/8 spindle gouge. And that's those are the tools I'm going to be using. So let's get started. So I think, yeah, you can see it better from this camera here, which is good. So I'm just going to make this round here. I'm going to support the piece with the corners are rubbing against my palm, but not a lot of pressure because that's friction. It's going to make my hand really hot, and maybe skin some skin off if I'm not careful. So basically I've got my anchor here, I've got an anchor on my body, the tool is actually touching my hip here. I can do this one-handed, I can do it two-handed. I'm not actually, when I'm turning with the skew, I'm not actually trying to turn it with my left hand. My hand is pretty much just set on the tool to keep it anchored to the tool rest. It's just my hand weight. I'm not trying to push down, and I'm just taking cuts at what the tool can handle at this speed and with this particular timber. But as you can see, my angle is about 45 degrees to the piece. With most tools, actually with all the tools that I've found so far, the best cutting angle is about 45 degrees, but it varies also depending on the wood species. Some species you need to, well, I mean on all the wood species, you got to vary that angle a little bit. 45 degrees doesn't always work on every single piece. So you might see my tool come up to maybe about 30 degrees or maybe a little bit wider. It just depends on the material. 45 degrees is a good starting point. So I've got my hand, my fingers are actually touching the riser on the tool rest, the banjo, and then my thumb is resting right on here. Just to help, as I said, minimize vibration as I'm cutting this material. It doesn't matter which hand we go with, although I understand that there are a lot of professional production turners who never switch hands. They go at it from the same hand, just change their stance. But I wanted to be able to use the tools with either hand. I taught myself to be ambidextrous at a younger age. I had broken my right elbow and had to learn how to write and all that stuff left-handed because I was wearing a cast and couldn't really move my arm. So that's pretty close to round. I've got a little bit of flat spot there I want to get rid of, just so it doesn't bounce around on the wheels, and add vibration into the process. Still got a little bit of a flat spot, but we'll get it knocked down. It's almost gone. I got two flat spots. All right. So as you can see, as it gets more and more round, there's less and less vibration. I'm still supporting it with my hand because there is some flexion here. This is a longer piece. I'm not dealing with something that's 8 or 10 inches long, so it needs some support. I think that is going to be, well, let me get rid of that. It's probably okay, but okay, that did it, I think. No, one more pass. One more pass. So I want to keep my center line there, so I need to mark that again. Actually, that doesn't, yeah, it does matter. I want my center line, so I'm going to go ahead and mark these spots here. Pencil's a little sharp, so I broke off the tip. I'll go ahead and mark these now. because my spindle steady is going to be in the way. Center line. And on this particular piece, let's take a look at the story stick here. I think I'm not going to, I want to match the long side, and my center point here on the long side has just got a single barrel. The rest of the barrels are split. So on this one, I'm going to remove this line here, the center line. And then I'll just make a single barrel here. I believe I'll be able to get in there with, while the spindle steady is in place. So let's move this around, out of the way. This guy into place. And we'll get this set. Alright, need to tighten that down. Fortunately, or I don't know if it's fortunately or not, I'm happy to have found that the bolts for the one-way spindle steady and bowl steady are SAE. I do have, of course, metric tools, but this is SAE. So the tools are a little bit, I don't know, easier to find. I don't know. Maybe that's not right. There we go. All right, so you can already see, or hear probably even as well, how much this spindle steady helps. Now, I do want to, I did talk about this last night, so I should talk about it this evening. The one-way spindle steady in particular, I don't know about other ones. Does that help with the sort of kinda? See if this there we go. You can kind of see that better. So these are nylon wheels. They've got bearings inside, and then they have these rubbery compound kind of bands around them in grooves, and each wheel has two. My main issue, I really would like to get, and I've got to shop around for the right size inline skate wheels, or skateboard wheels for that matter, because these, when it's turning and it starts to heat up, it heats up these rubbers too, and they expand and want to try to come off the wheel. Fortunately, there's a groove they ride in, so as they go around and back onto the lumber as it's coming around, it gets pushed back into that groove. But you'll see that these will expand, and you'll see them kind of free spinning up here, still catching the material down here. But that's my only main complaint, I guess, about this particular setup is these guys, because they are going to wear out. If I use, and this one is already very loose. I think you can, no, you can't see that from the camera. This one on the bottom here, the outside rubber is really loose. I can pull it almost an eighth of an inch away from the wheel. This one is, these are still pretty solid. That one's a little loose. So they'll eventually wear out. With an inline skate wheel or skateboard wheel, these won't be on there. And so that's what I'm going to do to modify this at some point, because I don't like this. This is not good. I would hate to be turning a piece and then these fly off, things get all bunged up, and that would not make me happy. Alright, so that's tightened down, we're good there. Now, I do have, there's that one. I do have longer tool rests. And in the case of this, and it would require two banjos. Now, this is the shorter of the two that I have. I have another one that's longer and would probably cover this whole piece, but I need that spindle steady in there. So what I did instead was just use my two different tool rests on my banjo so that I could go in between both sides, and I would have support here and support here, just turning this much, and the same on the headstock. One of the biggest things about wood turning is, you want to limit the vibration that you get as much as possible. You get a cleaner cut that way and a less frustrating experience when you're turning. And I've got my tool rests about a centimeter-ish above center. And what I want to do is I want to get kind of cut close to this line. This is going to be my square shoulder that I will get towards the end. But I just make V-cut with the long point of the tool. I'll do the same on the other end. And I typically want to work from area of most vibration to area of least vibration. In this case, the center would be most vibration, be most flexing, and then where it's making contact with the equipment, then that is less vibration. So I'm going to turn from here that way and here that way to make this round. So got my anchor set there, tools against my body also, because I'm going to use my body to make this cut. I'm not going to pull with this hand. This hand is just resting on the piece, or on the skew, or any tool that I'm going to use really. I don't do a lot of manipulation with the hand that's holding the tool most of the time. I just want to get in there. I'm moving my ankles, my knees, my hips. I'm just going side to side this way so that I can use my body to turn the wood. I don't have to use my arms. I'm not trying to use just my hands. I'm using my entire body, so all the muscle groups get to be engaged, and it is a much smoother turning experience. And I can do this for a longer period of time because I'm not wearing out like my arm muscles trying to monkey the tools into position or anything like that. Almost. Maybe I'm just feeling the, no. All right, so I'm almost round. So on a skew, especially for the newer people, the newer folks to turning, the skew itself usually is cut at an angle. If it's not, I guess it would be a scraper. Possibly, but usually it's cut at an angle. And then you've got the bevels on each side. For this particular skew, I believe I'm at 20 degrees, so 40 degrees included. And I like, on this particular skew, I like having my my bevel radiused a little bit because for me it helps me do beads and things like that. But when I'm turning and I've got the tool presented to the lumber and I've got my anchor, my bevel set and cutting, I want to cut on the lower half of the tool, whichever one that is. If I'm using the long point, it's still the lower half of the tool I want to be using in most cases. When there are times when I will use more or a different part of the skew, but it's because I've had quite a bit of practice with it, and so whatever you are not comfortable with doing, you should not do until you get some practice into it. But these are just basic tool handling skills. I will use the long point often if I'm doing like a really long run towards the headstock. I like to use the long point because I don't have to have the handle down so low and then I'm so far away from the lathe I can just go straight across that way. And the closer I get to the headstock, the more often I'm going to want to use my longer point anyway, because that's all that's making contact with the wood. I've got all of the rest of the mass of the tool and everything else away from the headstock, so I can get right up in there. I don't normally, well, I do use the points to cut, but I usually use the points only for when I want to get I want to get a clean end point. I want to get specifically to a spot, and you'll see that while I'm turning this, and I'll explain that as I go along as well. In fact, I think you're going to see it real soon. Now that I remember. Alright, that's pretty round. Alright, so now I need to cut in here and get my square shoulder. But before I do that, I'm going to use the point. You're going to see this kind of flower up and roll over. Just like that. And get all fuzzy. But that lets me get right into, using just the point, right into a spot, very accurate spot in the corner or something like that. So I want to square this shoulder up because this is the part of the frame that's going to connect to the rest of the frame. I'm going to use a point to get right up into that corner and cut that off clean. So now I have a square shoulder, which is exactly what I was looking for. I might need to take just a skosh more off there, but I'm not. You know what? I'll do that. So when I'm doing a B cut or any kind of straight cut in, most of the time I'm using the long point. When I've got the handle way down, I want to point the bevel that's going to be actually touching the timber or whatever I'm turning, pointed in the direction that I want it to travel, because that's where it's going to want to go. It's going to want to go in the direction that the bevel is pointed. So then I line that up so that it's square, and I drop the handle down, tip up everything until I get, and slowly raise it up until I get that point to make contact. And then I just slowly raise the handle and bring the tool in, and that gets me a square shoulder. So now I'm going to do it the same thing on the other side, although I need to, let me address this really quick. And then I'll go over to this side. Let's shut the lathe off for a second. Oh good, this is going to cover most of it. Well, let's get this cleaned up first. So I'm going to go from area of most vibration, which would be the center, to the ends where there's least vibration, because I've got an anchor point to a piece of equipment. I'm not really pushing the tool. Turning is a lot of finesse. I'm not really pushing the tool into the timber. I've heard people call it floating the bevel, all kinds of different things. The bevel's just a guide for me. The bevel's not actually really even touching the wood. It's the cutting surface that I want to make contact, and not the rest of the tool. Really close there. I think I've got just a little bit, or maybe, yeah, there it is right there. Just a little bit of a flat spot to go. So just a light cut is all it will take. I need to move my tool rest. So I'll go here. Make sure all that clears. Make my first V-cut. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I do not want to booger up this shoulder. It needs to be square. I don't want to just cut right into it because I got this other material to remove first, and this diameter needs to meet this at a square shoulder. So right there you can see how this is fuzzing up and rolling over, curling over, kind of flouring it up is what I call it, as I was cutting with the point. And I was doing that on purpose. Show you what that looks like. Alright, that's pretty round. Let's double check it. Yep, all looks good. So now I'm going to square that up. I want to set my bevel in the direction I want it to travel, which is straight that way. So the tool is going to be at an angle, but the bevel is pointing in the direction I want it to go. Then just work my way down using just the point to get a very accurate cut. And cut that off. I need to go a little bit further. But before I do that, let's clean this up. You can see that point lets me get right up to this shoulder surface without touching anything else. If I was to use it like this, like I normally would using the lower half, trying to get to that corner is impossible without boogering up all these things. So trying to get into that shoulder would be really, it would be impossible. See how that looks. Oh, still got some to take off. But I hit my line right on. Cool. So just feeling as it's coming around, lightly feeling if I feel any flat spots. There's one right there, but it's very, very minor. Okay, so now I'm set. This is round now. I can now put my design down. So I'm going to line up these guys. Let's just go back to this camera right here. Hammer grips. Howdy, Dave. It's like playing an instrument. Yeah. Yes, sir. How's it going, Pete? Hey, you said Mike is doing the demo this Saturday, right? I hope. Okay, so pencil. Like I said, normally if I could get in between there, if this wasn't a square shoulder, I could get the whole thing right up next to the timber there, and then just let it rotate and draw the line. Instead, I've got to do it this way, make a mark, and then I'll have to spin the piece. But that's okay, man, not a problem. Just need an indication of where my elements are going to be. Shift it a bit. Hopefully, I'm making these dark enough that I can just turn on the lathe and touch the pencil to these lines and draw the circle that way instead of having to rotate the piece for each particular line. We'll see how that turns out. Hey, that was like almost a wood turning joke. Okay, so that's all my marks. Let's try. Yeah, alas, well, I can see these ones, so let's do those. Got one there. One there. You know what? I can't see them very well. Oh, I was seeing it. All right. So I'm basically adding a step to do this instead of just being able to lay the piece up there and and then just draw the line automatically with the wood spinning around. The line doesn't really need to go all the way around. This piece is spinning fast enough that the line would look continuous if it was only halfway around. So I'll make these a little bit larger so they're easy to see, and then I can just spin it. Yeah, even that would work, but let's go ahead and darken those lines. And then I'll need to repeat this process one more time for the second side. Actually, just that 1 inch mark would be enough, really. There we are. Alright, so again, normally I would want to turn from area of least vibration to area, or most vibration to area of least vibration. But I think what I'm going to do is just take this from center to headstock and then center to tailstock. Get my little visual aid here. It goes that way, that way, that way. that is going to be the swoosh. Let's take a look at the story stick just to make sure I'm seeing this correctly. Where's my line? So that's your swoosh. So that's cove, barrel, cove, barrel, barrel, cove. And that will be a cove. Since I know this is going to be a barrel, I'm going to go ahead and turn the end of it. Once again, especially for those who are new to the game, let me explain how I'm using this spindle gouge. This has been, and this I learned from, oh gosh, I think it was Mark Gardner. No, it wasn't Gil Gerard. So this was Mark Gardner. Well, I took some classes with him a few years back, and he took me aside and showed me this technique, and I've been using it ever since because it is the most friendly way to use a spindle gouge that I've found so far. It's like any other gouge. I want to have, you know, the 45-degree angle-ish. That's a good starting point. As the cutting surface that is touching the timber, and I have my anchor and my bevel, but I want to know where my end cut is going to be. For the beads, my end cut is going to be where the flute, that's all the way open, pointing up at the ceiling, and it's all the way closed, pointing at the piece or pointing to the side, which however that works in your head. If you're turning this way, say I'm doing a quarter of a bead, you know, dome, bottom of a bowl, if you will, that there is, bottom of a bowl is half a bead. It's a quarter bead one way, quarter bead the other way. The inside of a bowl is a cove. I want to set my end point where the tool is going to be, where I expect the tool to be. So I will set the tool that way. Here the tool is, the flute is almost all the way closed. I'm going to do these beads. And I'll set my thumb right on top, just like that. Okay. What that tells me, or what that does for me, and this is I'm in a neutral, comfortable position. This is the normal holding position for me, holding something like this, you know, a rod or whatever. In this case, a tool handle. So that I know that's going to be my end cut. I want to finish off in this position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the handle down. I'm going to start my cut in as close to the tip of the tool on the lower part of the cutting surface. I'm not going to use the upper part. I'll use the lower part. Start that cut, and then as I am pushing, it's just thumb pressure really. Sometimes it's just finger pressure depending on how I've got to set my hand. But it's not a lot of pressure. I am just pushing the tool one direction or the other with my hand, and then with my opposite hand that's holding the tool handle, I have rotated my wrist into an uncomfortable position, which you can see here. The thumb is off to the side, my wrist is cocked off that way. I can start my cut that way though, and then as I bring the cut around, or well, I'm not even going to say around, because everything I'm doing, I'm cutting in a straight line. But I'm raising the tool handle. I'm allowing my wrist to be completely loose. So as I raise my hand up, my hand wants to come back to its natural, normal, neutral position. That's where I want to end the cut. So I have to start, I want to end in a comfortable position, which means I have to start in an uncomfortable position. But my body mechanics, and the same for anybody else, the body mechanics, you want that to work for you. So I'll start down, and then as I'm pushing this way, making a cut straight, I'm lifting the handle. That gives me the curve. But I'm lifting the handle only as fast as the tool can cut, and then it comes up into a neutral position. I'm done with the cut, and everything feels comfortable and natural, and everything is groovy. So I'm going to start doing these beads, and I will do them in one direction, I think this is probably a little high for that. No, I'm not gonna lower the tool rest. So I'm starting my cut way up here, and I think you can probably see just that little whisk of shaving right up in the corner there. That's where I'm starting my cut. Tool handles down, and then I push with my thumb and raise the handle. The cut is still happening in a linear direction, but because I'm adding this, it gives it that curve. I'm going to do all my beads this way. You watch my hand. That's another thing I forgot to do. Whoops. But it's a great teaching moment. Okay, so you can see here where I've cut into the timber. Just off to the left of your screen there. How it's kind of fuzzed up and bunched up there. It's because as I was making that cut, the cutting edge was pushing the rest of the material this way. What I normally do, and I forgot to do this time, is I will score those lines. They don't have to be really deep. I just want to break the surface of the timber. Cut those fibers loose. So that when I make these cuts, I'm not getting very much, hopefully none at all, fuzzed up cuts. I want the cuts to be as clean as possible. So I'm just using the long point, starting the cut, and just lifting the handle. Very simple cut to make. I'm going to go to the other side, which you're not going to see on camera. Just doing the same thing. And then I'll show you the difference between the two cuts with the spindle guide. Okay, so they're not very deep. Let's go over to these guys right here. Oh, not that guy. Okay, so this is going to be a cove. So I'm going to want to hit this bead on this side. Well, no, this bead. So this is my end cut. Thumbs on top. Flute is closed because I know when I get down into the bottom, that's where I want the flute to be. I cut right to that line. Now you can see the difference between that and this fuzzed up stuff. So that's why I like to score the top surface, the upper surface, to cut those fibers loose so I don't get stuff like this. This will be easy to clean up, but I'd rather just not have to deal with it in the first place. I'm not particularly against sanding. I just would rather not have to do very much. Alright, this is going to be just a tiny cove. Clean that up. This is going to be, So this needs to be a little bit deeper because of the features I'm going to turn there. I'm just going to go all one direction here and get all the quarter beads I need to get. You see, I'm just lifting my hand up. I'm just bringing the tool handle up. I'm not trying to rotate anything. It's naturally occurring because my body wants to move into a neutral position. Whatever that neutral position is. I'm using my entire body to make the cut. I'm shifting on my knees, ankles, and hips. My shoulders staying in alignment with where my hips are. I'm not trying to turn or rotate or do anything like that. A little bit deeper with that one. Bit deeper with that one. Let's see, this one is the swoosh. Alright, now I can go the other direction. So I'll just go back. Well, nope, we'll go from center out. Let me think about this guy. Let's see, that was here, 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 and then there. So that is going to be a cove. And then that's going to, okay, cool. So it doesn't matter what hand I use. Same mechanics. I'm just lifting the handle. My body wants to naturally move into its comfortable position. That one's got to go a little bit deeper. I'm only going as fast as the tool can cut. Although I got to clean this up now. There we go. And I am actually using my tool rest a little higher, in a little higher profile than I would normally with the spindle gouge. But because I'm going to be switching between the spindle gouge and the skew, I'm just leaving it at the height that I need to work my skew. So since I'm right here, I need to do this feature here, and this is where I'm going to use the point. Probably won't be able to see it that well, but I got a couple more to do. The skew is uniquely set to make this cut. Alright, so now I'm going to work this down because this is a cove. I'm actually using, in this case, it's a very short stroke, so I'm using my fingers to pull the tool toward me. Not something I normally do. This right here is me moving my whole body. Getting a really nice cut out of it. See, that's not deep enough, but that's okay. I'm going to do. that. And then clean that up a bit. Now you can see it better here. I'm going to be using the point to make this the rest of this element. But that point lets me get really accurate cut into the space that I want it. Just like that. The skew is really good for stuff like that. I got another one right there. Using the point, cut right down in, and get right to the face of that. Just like that. Okay, that guy can set aside. Let's see, this is going to be, what is this going to be? Oh yeah, finish these beads. It's a little slower than I normally do it because I like doing a running bead in one direction, but I'm doing spindle work here and I've got more flexion than I normally would, say, on a bowl or a lidded box or something like that. Okay, so this has got to go down. You can use a point for that to really get it in there. Get that stuff off of there. Just hog off some material. I'm calling it hogging off. I'm not really taking heavy cuts. I'm just getting rid of material that is in the way of the actual element shape. Scoot. Clean this up a little bit. Oh yeah, I could help demystify the skew a little bit more even. So when I start a cut like that with the skew, I've got my anchor set on my body usually, not all the time, but most of the time. But that's because the practice that I've had, I can kind of get away with it. Well, not even, that's not the right word. I'm not getting away with anything. I put the practice in, and so I have the tool handling skills that let me do that. You will get there too. Just takes practice. So normally when I'm just, say, like I rounded out all this stuff, I'll get my anchor set, my bevel set in the direction that I want it to go, and then I'll ride right on the shoulder right here on the piece, and then slowly bring the tool into contact, the cutting edge into contact. So in a way, I'm kind of riding that bevel, but only until I get to the cutting edge. Once I get to the cutting edge, if you look, yeah, I think you see this. All right, so if I'm cutting here, let's do it right there. So I'm not making any cuts, right? I'm riding right on that shoulder. And bring the handle up, and now you can see that I'm starting to make a cut right there, right? It's a very tiny cut, but I think you can see that on the camera. But if you look at the bevel the bevel itself is not making contact with the wood. So I'm not floating the bevel, I'm not riding the bevel. The bevel is not even making contact. It's just the cutting edge. So when I hear people say, float your bevel, ride your bevel, what they actually mean is bring your cutting edge into contact. The bevel is there to help you guide to that spot, but then you want to get that cutting edge engaged. You're no longer even really touching that. So using the point again, short point, I think that looks pretty good. Let's clean this bit up. There we go. Okay, done. That's done. That's all done. That's all. Okay, cool. So now I can do this. I can take the lathe speed down, throw some abrasive on here. I want to just touch those coves a little bit, around the edges over. I want to make sure that I've got as clean a surface as I can get. I don't know what the finish is going to be on this. I don't know if it's going to be painted or stained or whatever. I just don't know yet. But what I don't want is a bunch of scratch marks and tool marks and stuff. Even if I was painting it, I want to get rid of those because those are still going to show up. You can bury them under layers of paint, but why? I don't want to bury it under layers of paint. I want to have the tool handling skills and the wherewithal to eliminate those issues so that when the finish goes on, the surface is completely ready. Now I'm using 180 grit abrasive here. Depending on the finish that goes on, I may go up to 220 later when when I have discussed that with the client, what they want to see. Until then, I just want to get rid of any stray tool marks or anything like that. I did make some pretty clean cuts, so there's not a lot to do, but I do want to make sure that the abrasive is touching everywhere so that the surface looks the same from any angle. I don't have like one part that's obviously sanded and another part is that's obviously not sanded. It just looks odd to me anyway. And I'm not using a lot of pressure here, just enough to keep the abrasive in contact with the timber. If the paper gets caught, and you'll see this over, the more of these broadcasts that you watch, you'll actually see this happen, that the paper or the abrasive gets taken away from me. I'm okay with that. I don't have a death grip on whatever I am applying to the wood because I know that it's a possibility of getting it sucked in. That's why I don't have long sleeves. I'm not wearing gloves, all that. So when I'm holding the abrasive, it's not a super tight grip. I'm okay if it gets sucked away from me. It just means that I'm not getting pulled in to the workpiece. And you don't really need tons of pressure to get the abrasive to work. I'm getting to the point where I think, yep, it's time to swap. New abrasive. And this applies to any turning. It's not just spindle specific. It's just using your abrasives in a manner that is both efficient and economical and safe. Safety is the biggest key word for wood turning, because this is an inherently dangerous, I mean, seriously, you got a piece of timber, turn around, I don't know, at this point probably 50 miles an hour, right? This machine doesn't give a shit if I scream. It doesn't care if I get pulled in and all my bones get broken. It's still going to run until it can't move anymore. It does not care. But I do. I don't want to get caught up in this. You know, you can have a piece come off the lathe. When I am directly in the line of fire of a cut that I'm working on, I will normally wear a full face mask instead of just these guys. But I'm not dealing with any project right now that is going to have a possibility. Well, I guess there's always going to be some possibility. I don't want to get like, make some blanket statement that isn't going to be like totally true. It would be really difficult for this piece to come off. I'd really have to apply some pressure on it for it to snap, and even then it may not fly one direction or the other. It may just kind of drop and then try to roll away, because it's a spindle turning and it's a thin spindle. But I still don't want something to fly off the lathe and smack me or smack anybody that's near me, destroy any kind of equipment or wall or anything like that. So everything I try to do in the safest manner possible. I need to hit that again with the skew, because that was not a good cut. We'll do that now. Again, just using the short point, not the long point. Well, and why did I say that? Because I'm going this direction, but that's not even a good reason. I could do the same thing with the long point. Just get that point in there. It's just a little bit different angle coming this direction as opposed to going this direction. And I want really good accuracy. So in this particular direction, using the short point is most beneficial to what I'm trying to turn here. Alright, so these elements are done. I just need to do a little abrasive on this guy. Again, it's not a lot of pressure. You see the papers curling over and all that. I'm not trying to force it into the timber. Let's hit this again. Wrong one. This is the guy. All very smooth, very cool. So now I'm going over to the other side. So let's switch. Put the camera over here. I'm going to work from the center to the tailstock. So I'll do all my beads first, only because it helps me get everything else lined out. Look like I'm turning this hand intentionally, but I'm not. I'm just lifting it. So this bead goes this way. We'll do all the beads in one direction. Come back, finish them off. That one doesn't matter. That one matters. This is going to be a toe. So I'll just finish this toe. Now, for that matter, I guess it doesn't really matter if I do it that way either, does it? No. Alright, So same thing, I want my finish cut, the flute closed, doing it this way. It's no different, it's just now I'm turning my hand outward, picking up the cut, and then pulling gently with the fingers. Only as fast as the tool can cut, and raising the tool handle. That's it. This needs to be like that, so this needs to be like this. And deeper than that. There we go. I just did it again. I'm turning at 400 RPM. That's the slowest my lathe can go. You can see I'm still getting some really, really nice cuts because I'm only traveling as fast as the tool can cut. It doesn't matter what speed I'm running at. It really doesn't. Just need to be aware that, like right there, I just figured out, oh, you know what? This is turning kind of slow. What's the deal? Because it was turning kind of slow. Alright, so this guy needs to be here. And a little bit deeper. That might be deep enough, but we'll take it just down a little bit more. I got all my beads. I don't have all my beads yet. Quite over far enough to get this guy. Okay, yeah, there we go. So you can see that band right there, I think. Let's undo this. That might help, I don't know, but you can see this band, how much it's coming off that wheel. That is, 3/16 of an inch. It's heated up. And that's my main concern about this particular wheel set with the one-way spindle steady. Okay, so now I'm going to start from here and work my way to the tailstock. I'm going to use the tip of the short point of the tool to make this cut. those up. So by way of example, I'm not going to use this hand. So I got my anchor and my anchor. Got my bevel set in the direction that I want to start cutting and want the tool to travel, right? So I'm on that shoulder. I just need to bring it up, and I'm going to use my whole body to make this cut. This is what I'm talking about. It's my whole body making the cut, not my hands, not my arms. Ergonomics are very important. I want to keep turning for as many years as I possibly can, and I know that not beating up just certain parts of my body means that I will have more time at the lathe later on in life. Pulling that up, I actually need to make a better cut there. Just using a short point, be heavy or I can make a heavier cut or a lighter cut, just like every other tool. It doesn't matter where my hand is on the tool handle, the thumb is just going to be on top. It doesn't have to be right there, it can be anywhere. Alright, that is the... And it's just finesse. Very light touch. Go. So done. Cool. All set, so lay it down again, apply a little abrasive. I want to hit these little fillet shoulders again. And then the last little bit, I'll remove the spindle steady and sand the very center. take a look at chat. What we got for chat? First time chatter. August. Sorry if I said that wrong. Ever used 1 grit sandpaper? No, but I have used 40 before, but I don't know. Is there a 1 grit sandpaper? Might be. I don't know. I have to look that up. But no, I have not. Like I said, this is 180 grit. I normally do my pieces, or my turn, yeah, all the objects I turn are at least 220 grit, but that's usually where I get to start because of the surface that I've left behind with the tool work, is I can start off at a higher grit. I'm not skipping any grits, mind you. Although, I mean, I'm skipping, well, let's say 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 150, 180. I may go to 220 with this later, depending on, like I said, the finish. I'm not afraid to use 40 grit, 60 grit, whatever, if it's necessary, but for me, that is really not often. Really, really rare. The most common size of or grit of sandpaper that I buy is 220. I use the most of that. Time to swap to a new piece of abrasive, but I'm almost done with this one, so I'll use a new piece of abrasive on the second side. Yes, these are the sides, not the top and bottom. Now think about that for a second. So, to try this again. I'm sorry, I know I'm not saying that right. Are you a wood turner yourself? Have you had any interest in wood turning? What is your favorite thing to do, I guess? What brings you to Twitch? Besides, hopefully, this broadcast. I did forget one thing. And that is, I gotta cut this shoulder. Oh, I did already. I did not forget. Yay, me! Okay, so I already cut those shoulders in. Never mind. Thought I had forgotten something. I'm sure it's not just because of age, right? Is it? I don't know. That's all pretty smooth. I just want to hit this shoulder again. Right there. There we are. That's one piece done. I can get rid of that abrasive. And I've got to do the next one. So that's what they will both look like. So let's take this guy away. And by the way, welcome to the channel too. I'm glad you stopped by. I'm sorry I'm not, I don't know, maybe I am, but I believe I'm probably not pronouncing your screen name correctly. Well, let's see. It is still time for abrasive. I need to do this center bit. It's going to be some flexion, but I can kind of brace it with my fingers, my palm of my hand. I'm not gripping really tight because that's creating friction. Don't want heat build up and burn my skin off. Burn a hole in my hand. That would suck. Feels mostly, but it's not quite. There we go. Alright, cool. And it's cool, you really can't see the sacrificial piece all that well, which is fine, but all those edges, except that's the sacrificial piece. It's got a piece that broke out, and that is too. So it's the sacrificial piece that took the damage, it looks like, and that was the whole point of it. Okay, so that's one side down. Moving on to the next. Is that pretty centered? Yes. Alright, so I want to make sure it's secure. I don't need a ton of pressure because I don't want to bend the center in because I'm pushing the ends in. I just want to firmly in place. So that's 400. Let's kick it up a notch. See what happens when I loosen the tailstock. Yep, it's giving me a little more vibration. I tighten it down, it eases up a little bit. If I go any tighter, it's going to add more vibration. We don't want that. Well, I don't want that. Now I need to make this center bit round again, just like the last one. Except this time I'm going to use the long point instead of the short point. It doesn't really matter which one you use most of the time. So my palm of my hand is actually going to be against the wood. My fingers are touching the riser on the banjo down here. I don't want to try to stuff them up in there, but regardless, the wood is turning this direction, so it'll push my fingers out from underneath. I definitely don't want to get them stuck up in here. Not a lot of pressure against the wood. I'm just making the cutting edge come into contact. I'm using my whole body to move the tool. The whole body's moving with the tool. You can feel it's gonna feel smoother and smoother the rounder I get. My thumb is just on top of the tool to give it weight. I'm not pushing down, I'm just resting my whole hand on my thumb. Not quite round, but getting there. Just gonna take that away. again, the reason I'm doing it this way is so I can get the spindle steady right here and it not bounce around on flat spots. Got a little warm. I gave it a little bit too much pressure with my fingers. That feels pretty round right there, but I think there's just a tiniest bit of a flat spot. Let's get rid of that. There it is, I think. Almost, not quite. There we go. Now I can move this into position. Let's find the center line. Where'd you go, pencil? Hey, you didn't actually fall off this time. How cool is that? And that's the center right there. So I'll mark this one and that one for now. So I want to get the spindle steady in a position that when both wheels contact, it's not actually moving the piece. If I'm off a little bit, say this way towards the back, and I said it, you can see that piece shift. I don't want it to shift. I just want to cradle it. That looks like good right there. Because this spindle steady doesn't need to be clamped down real tight either. I'm just putting enough pressure on it to make sure. I'm going to shift it over this way. It's not quite where I want it. Make sure both wheels are making similar contact by spinning them to see what it takes to spin them when they're up against the wood. Feels about even right there. Okay, so it's just enough pressure against the wood to keep things in place. It's not I'm not going to crank it down. One of the reasons is because these bands will really heat up and then they'll really want to try to come off. But the second reason is don't need a lot of pressure. Just need to have some support here. Because I've got a longer piece. Alright, so this time now I'm going to start over here and then end up with the last the other camera. Now to you, August. I hope your day is going well. Are you a woodturner? Are you a gamer? What brings you to the channel besides hopefully this broadcast? Alright, I will need this in a second. Let's see. I've got to make now the whole thing round. So I'll take my V-cut here. I'm a little shy of my square cut. I'll clean that up when the rest of this is round so I have a square shoulder. So I'm going to work from center to headstock. practicing this technique, I learned that you can actually go backwards with a skew. Still pulling shavings off. Something right in here. Is it the sacrificial piece? It is not. There we go. Put this guy down. Now I'll square the shoulder up. Okay, come in just a little bit more. There we go. Now back to this guy. Oops. Before I do that, you see, I'm not making a cut. I'm hitting that shoulder of the bevel. Just lift the handle up a little bit, and I'm ready to go. stir this up. Okay. Now let's lay this. Anything new in chat? No. Okay, let's lay this up here. My story stick. Just slide my pencil point right down into that groove. Whoops. And then bring it straight up. Mark where all the elements go. Come on now. Okay. Move the story stick aside. I think this time I'll just extend the line instead of going to the trouble of turning the lathe on to get a full circular line. I don't really need it. The after image is coming around fast enough that it will look like a fairly solid line. Okay. cut all those surface fibers so I don't have a lot of fudged up wood when I'm turning the elements. So I just kind of get into a roll, into a groove, and go for it. Take this one just a little bit deeper. It doesn't matter. Okay, this guy is a small cove. I'm going to do that over here. I need to go back. Oh, it's not a cove. Never mind. Good thing I looked at that. So let's get that bead. I see I missed one. And this needs to be deeper. Oh man, that was really clean right off the bat. Nice. actually, this is a good spot. For another little demonstration. So I'm in a tight spot right there. If I can't get the lower half in, I can still use the upper half of the blade as long as that's where I stay. I'm not traveling down to the bottom half to pick it up when I get to the bottom of the cut. Just using a slightly different part of the skew, but in the same orientation as any other cut with a skew. Tool. Lots of ways to make the fillets and do those kinds of things. This is just the way that I'm doing it today. Clean that up. And that. Right, that line. You can see where my thumb is at. It's not on the side where it's up here, because my cut is going to end right about there. So my thumb's on top. Clean this up. Looks pretty good. So with this, in this way, using story sticks, some kind of visual representation, idea of where the elements go, means that I will have consistent spindles everything's going to be consistent, same spacing, all that stuff. Okay, that's done, 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 done. Okay. Some abrasive. hit that with spindle gouge. Whoops. Should turn off the lathe when you move the tool rest. There we go. Anyway, it's easy to make copies when you have story sticks and you got a plan. Everything will match up, and we'll show that when I have these two pieces side by side. So, what do you guys think of spindle turning? Do you do a lot of it? Do you do a little bit of it? Do you do any of it? Let me know in chat. Hopefully the process that I'm showing you helps you out, not just with spindle turning, but with all your turning. See, that's not like I do this guy. Tra-la-la. Just making sure all the scratches are gone. Not that there are a lot. I'm just making sure that the surface all the way across looks very similar and homogeneous. It's not like tear out and a bunch of tool marks and then a piece that looks really good and then the rest, because it's going to be finished in something, I don't know what. But even with paint, if the scratches are deep, we'll have to use several coats of paint to cover those scratches. And I'd rather not have to cover up any scratches. Okay, so that side is done. We'll move into this side now. Let's check out chat. Anything new in chat? No, not yet. All right, so the last comment was by I-Nocti Uagus. I might be getting closer to saying that properly. By using one grit paper or abrasive, and I just got a wild thought in my head. Yeah, a file. I've used files. I guess that would be a 1, wouldn't it? Rougher file? I don't know. All right, so we need to score all these lines. Did I slow the lathe down? So it's just a slight upward tilt of the handle. The point starts to cut. I lift the handle and it kind of brings it in just a bit. I don't need to go very deep. Just need to break the surface fibers. And I'm going to double check my dude here. I think I'm going to put a fresh edge on this guy. We'll be right back. trip over everything, Dave. Grinder going. There we go, clean bevel. You know what, I'm going to try something because I haven't turned poplar like this. I've made some bowls and stuff like that out of poplar. Some boxes. Have I made boxes out of poplar? No, I've done some spindle work or finials with poplar. But I'm going to hone this tool and get rid of the burr. So this is an old piece of 320 abrasive, and it feels like there's just just a little bit of grit, but that's all I need. It almost feels smooth, but that's why I'm using an older piece. I just need to be able to push that burr over the edge. So I use a piece of abrasive, a piece of leather. The leather lets me loop it like this and fit it right down into the flute of the tool and cover the whole thing. So if there's a wider, like a bowl gouge, I could press down a little bit. That would open that curl a little bit more to fit whatever flute I'm going down into. And then I will take my diamond card and I will approach it from the outside, and I'm just going to drag the tool down on that bevel. I'm right on this bevel to pull that burr right off. And what that's going to do is really hone the edge of this dude. And I have found most of the time that my cutting edges last longer when I do this. And it's just a fine diamond card. So now what I expect to see is a little bit of a, it's not a bevel, but I'll see a little bit of a line, and let's see if I can get this in the right light. Let's just go, this will help me if I do this. Oh, we've got to go to this camera anyway. Let's see if I can get this to show up. Yeah, there it is. You can see that little line right there. See if I can get it just to really show up. Let's try this side. Uh-oh, something froze. Oh, okay. I can get through. There it is. Okay, so you can kind of see it. It's not a very wide line, but that's where that burr came off, and I'm looking for that all the way around. I can see that comes all the way around, so that means my burr's been cleaned off, and I have nothing but a sharp tool edge, and it's been honed. So that will give me a longer edge retention in most cases. With the really harder exotic woods, it even helps with those, although not as long, because those timbers are a lot more dense usually than our domestics here in America. Although we have things like rock maple, which is just incredibly hard stuff. not that one, not that one. This is a cove. So I've got the visual representation. It's been covered up the whole time. But fortunately, I made the design. And I had to make several mistakes before I got into it, so I kind of got a really good idea of what it's supposed to look like. So now let's go back. No, it looks like I'm guessing it really looks like this hand is turning. And it is, but I'm not turning it. I'm just lifting my hand and it wants to go into its neutral position that I've set ahead of time, which is this. So as I lift my hand, it naturally wants to rotate on its own. I don't have to try to turn the tool, and I get really clean cuts. Yeah, I'm glad I honed this guy. These are really coming out nice. Alright, so let's get the rest of this stuff done. It's a little tight right here. Let's take it in just a little bit more. I probably am going to start practicing. I guess a lot of professional turners anyway, you know, production turners, spindle turners, stuff like that, don't switch hands when they're turning. But I like to be able to. Use the tool with both hands. Either direction. Sometimes you're up against a tailstock or a headstock and you can't get your tool in the right position. You gotta swap hands. At least in my experience. Clean that up. Missed that bead, or did I? No, I didn't. I gotta go this way with it, but I do want to clean that one up. So you see how the point lets me get right to the end cut. Right to the face of the element on the other side of it. And that's typically when I'll use the points on a skew. Alright, this guy, oh, yep, no, don't want to forget, we gotta strike that line, slice those fibers. Doesn't have to be very deep. this one will be this way. Plus, when I get to the face of that, it's not really fuzzing up. So I got a clean surface to work from. This one's got to go a little bit deeper as well. Whoops. Well, I guess we might as well finish these beads here. Really, really a light touch. Don't have to force it. And this guy. You can see my point lets me go right down in there. And done, 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 all done. Okay. Time for abrasive. And then we'll compare the two. Excuse me. Skipping around a little bit because most of the abrasive was used up on that. I just wanted to use the center part for the flat spots here. Use up as much of the abrasive as I can before I gotta toss it out. Like something weird happened to my computer there out of the corner of my eye. All feeling pretty smooth. I have already trued up that corner, so that's groovy. Done, 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 done. Just got to do the center now. So I can move this guy out of the way. Little bit of support with just hand weight. I don't need a lot of pressure. I'm put as much pressure against it this way as I am with the abrasive, just to make sure I'm not adding, or I'm trying not to add any vibration to the process here. Alright, let's take a quick look. Looks all good. How does that centerpiece look? Oh, nice and clean all the way across. Oh, gotta love that. Gotta love it, gotta love it. Okay. Let's bring these two pieces up next to each other. Oh, as I bend over. I think that's the side I want. Line these guys up. And there we have it. So everything lines up really nicely, and I've got a matched set. I'm going to hit that part right there. I just lost it. Where did it go? Right there. I probably should have slowed the lathe down a little bit, but it worked out fine. Okay, so there we are. I've got all of the... Let's pull them all up here. Got these guys. These guys, yeah, this one's a little bit different size. I may have to redo this one, but that's all right. So there we are. I've got 4 match sets. I like the design, but that's the way I designed it. I wanted to really show off the piece of stained glass artwork that this is going to be ensconced in. That's a nice word, ensconced. So it looks like I probably have turned one more, but I'm okay with that. I have the material. How are we doing on time? Wow, check it out. Nice. TC Schmo, been watching you all night. Another great job. Thank you, sir, very much. I appreciate that. This is just about, we got basically 15 minutes before I will end the broadcast, but please pay attention to chat. I'm not working on anything right now, and I can give my full attention to it. If there's any questions or comments, please throw them in chat. Even if it's just a hi, I enjoyed the broadcast, something like that. And if you did enjoy it, please consider joining this community and follow the channel. That way you will get all of the scheduled broadcasts, the schedules sent to you, and then any updates, special bulletins, stuff like that. And you will be notified when, of course, the broadcast will happen. But any that you miss, again, you can go to youtube.com @Dave_Reif. That's my YouTube channel. All of the recorded broadcasts go to live there, so you can catch up on anything you might have missed, or rewatch. Perhaps you didn't quite catch something all the way through on the first go. You can go back and rewatch. All you got to do is subscribe to my channel on YouTube, and you'll have access to all of the videos. My name again is Dave Reif. I'm a wood turner. I started this channel to become a better turner myself. because and a better demonstrator, a better teacher. The more I explain it, the more I demonstrate it, the more I do it, the better turner I get to be. And I also started the channel to help people like you become better turners as well. I have a passion for wood turning. I started out as therapy for PTSD, and I almost gave it up, but that's partially well, a lot of it has to do with when I started turning, I guess 8 years ago, something like that. I started off with YouTube, and not a good plan. I've come to find out it's not a good thing. People do, and there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not saying anything wrong with doing videos for views on YouTube. That's what YouTube is about, right? Generating videos, generating interest, and then for those who are affiliates or whatever they call those partners with YouTube, they get ad revenue and all that stuff. That's the game. That's the whole thing for YouTube, right? Where was I going with that? That's a darn good question. That's a really darn good question. It's going to be one of those late night evenings, I suppose. Anyway, I found a way, or learned that I could live stream and give the instruction over the internet of how I'm doing things, what I'm doing, what tools I'm using, grinds, all that kind of stuff. Because I know through that's where I was going with that. I know through the years of the turning, and I always want to learn as much as I can about it. I want to be the best turner that I can be. I don't know if that means that I'll ever be the best turner in the world, but that's not my goal. My goal is to be the best turner that I can be, and to help people like you be the best turners you can be. Help smooth over any bumps along your journey, or maybe even remove those potholes and bumps entirely by showing you the proper way to use the tools. And as I learn more, those lessons and comments and stuff always get updated, because I want to give correct information and the most updated stuff. I don't want people to start where I started from. I started from just watching random YouTube stuff. They do things for the views. That's what YouTube is about. But I didn't know what wood turners to even watch. So I just picked random wood turners, and I saw wood turners using nothing but scrapers to turn their objects, which there's not a problem with that. A scraper is a perfectly valid tool. I got involved with a crowd after that. Well, let's skip over that. I'll get to that in a second. It doesn't matter to me what tool you use. I learn the tools as I go, because I want to be able to discuss the ins and outs of whatever tools somebody else is used to using, so that I can show them perhaps a more efficient way or a safer way to use a particular tool. I may not use that tool in my everyday, but I want to be able to talk about it, because if I don't have the information, then where are they going to find it? They might find it from other turners, sure, but will they turn to YouTube? YouTube does some crazy things, man. People do dangerous stuff on YouTube, and that's why I was saying I almost quit, because I was trying to follow along with YouTube and do the things that they say, using the tools the way they said to use them, and it was all wrong. I broke tool rests, I broke banjos, I bent skews, which is not easy to do. I've actually even snapped off tools right off the handle in my very, very early foray into wood turning. Then I found that there was a wood turning club here, so I joined. And I joined with the specific purpose of learning how to turn better, and that's how I met Lyle Jameson, who was president of the club at that time. Very well-known turner, 30-plus years turning, but he was my first mentor. And he doesn't use scrapers, usually, right? Honestly, he kind of tries to steer people away from them, which, everybody has their way of doing things and getting clean surfaces and whatnot. But I figure if I learn the tools, then I can help stop any hiccups smooth out any bumps in the road, stuff like that. Maybe I don't use the tools all the time, but I want to have a good working knowledge. And with all the tools that I have, I'm always trying to find what things I can do with them. Spindle gouge is great for spindle work, but it's also great for bowl work. It's great for doing other things. And if you learn how to use the tools properly, you'll be able to explore those in a safer manner than you would otherwise, and that's why I started this channel. So, I'm not seeing anything in chat as far as comments or questions. I want to thank you very much for joining me this evening. I stream every Tuesday, Wednesday night. I call it Twitch Tuesday and Woodturning Wednesday, 8 to 11, both nights, sometimes later. Depends on what's going on, or if I got questions happening, or I want to finish something and show the end result or the end of the cut or whatever I'm explaining. I don't necessarily always stop at 11, but because I don't want to cut something off in the middle and then leave it hanging, and then maybe not pick it up the next day, or even like tonight, I would wait until next Tuesday to address it again, and to me that doesn't make any sense. So if you if you enjoyed the show, and you maybe hopefully learned a little something, maybe it got you a little more curious about wood turning and you want to start, or maybe it's helped you further along your own wood turning skills. I hope that is the case. But if you did enjoy the broadcast, you had a good time, please consider joining the community. Give this channel a follow. Again, you can catch all the past broadcasts on YouTube at Dave Reif, at Dave_Reif. And having said that, and seeing, as I said, nothing left in chat, thank you very much for joining me on Wood Turning Wednesday. I'm going to end it just a few minutes early, 5-6 minutes early. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend, and I hope you stay friendly. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next Tuesday at 8 o'clock, Twitch Tuesday. Hope to see you there. Good night, folks.